Three trucks in a little barn. Three trucks in a little barn. If you don't know what Tommy Boy is, look it up. It'll make a lot more sense and make me look a lot less weird. Anywho, welcome to the Budget Duramax Street Truck Series. While the black truck is apart and the engine is being machined and the trans is being built, there's a lot of things I got to do with the chassis yet. But in the meantime, I decided to do a small series on a budget-built LB7 street truck. So if you don't know, LB7s are probably the cheapest Duramax you can get. The parts are very abundant. They are fairly cheap to mod, and they are overall fun trucks to drive, and they sound great. Now I'm going to go over pretty much all the prices for everything that I buy, including the trucks themselves, the parts. A lot of the stuff is probably going to be sourced on Marketplace because it's going to be used. A lot of the big parts such as the CP3, injectors, turbo, maybe a transmission, depends on how in-depth we're going to go with it, and if I can get a good stock trans or not for a fair price. Other than that, a lot of the other stuff will be sourced on Amazon. This is not supposed to be a quality built truck. This is a low buck budget build. So we're going for the cheapest of the cheap, but best bang for your buck. So without further ado, we've got truck number 1 and truck number 2. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and start with truck number 2 here because this was the first truck that I purchased. So this is a 2003 Silverado 2500 HD, obviously LB7 Duramax because that's what we're doing for our street truck build. 4-wheel drive truck. Not sure exactly where it came from, but it is actually a fairly clean, solid truck. However, as you can see, there is no front clip and there is no bed. So I sold the front clip because it was mismatched, and I believe that it was in a wreck at one point. You can see from the front bumper mount that it is pretty bent up. The frame horns are actually in good shape. They're not bent, but the bed was rusty. The clip was mismatched. So those have been sold. I bought this truck for $2,500. It has between 220 and 250,000 miles on it. Not 100% sure because the odometer was broke, and the last Carfax was at 190,000 back in 2019. So it's an honest guesstimate as to how many miles are on it, but I'm not totally sure. The only thing I do know is that the injectors had been replaced at one point in time. I'm not sure when, but you can see that the high pressure lines are newer. Those are not the factory high pressure lines. So injectors have been done, not sure when. Other thing is this truck has an E-fan kit on it. I have no idea who this is by or where you can get these. Other than that, the truck has a 4-inch exhaust all the way out the back and an Air Dog either 100 or 165 gallon per hour lift pump on it. So this truck has a transmission issue. When the previous owner bought it, it had a broken bell housing and a bad rear cover. So what they did was they pulled the trans out, they pulled the rear cover off, replaced the rear cover, put a new pump and bell housing in a different transmission, or it may have been the same transmission that came out of the truck. But my theory is they didn't seat the converter all the way in, because when I hopped under the truck to take a look at it, there was a little gap between the bell housing and the rear cover, and I believe that maybe they didn't seat the converter all the way in and it's not engaging with the pump, because the truck will not go into drive or reverse. It does run. It runs pretty decent actually. The only thing is the injectors are slightly out of spec, which not too big of a deal because we're probably going to be going with bigger ones regardless. So this truck is a four-wheel drive truck with a cloth interior and a center console. This is not a factory center console because it doesn't have any of the Bose stuff in it. And there's no connection to the main harness underneath the cup holder here. So I believe it was added in. But overall, super nice interior. The carpet's in great shape. The seats are in very good shape. They have no tears on the driver's side, no tears on the passenger side. The plastics all look good. There's no cracks. There is a little bit of paint peel, which is pretty standard on these trucks, but nothing appears to be broken. The only issue really is these window switches, which is a common issue on these trucks. They're floppy on this one. They're floppy on that one. And then, of course, headliner sag. So this one's not as bad as the other one, which you guys are going to see in a little bit, but definitely replaceable. So now on to truck number one. So truck number one is actually a Florida truck. Came from Florida a couple months ago. Same color as the truck over there. Also same year. It's an 03, but it has 350,000 miles on it, and it's two-wheel drive. So I'm not so sure about the history on the motor. I was told that it was gone through. However, it has blow-by. So don't know who went through it. Don't know what was done to it, but it's obviously got issues and it's gonna have to get pulled. The heads are studded. Everything else is stock, minus a 5-inch exhaust and a FAS 165. So that truck over there has an air dog. This truck over here has a FAS. Now I'm gonna have to decide between the two which one I'm gonna use. For some reason, the one on that truck doesn't like to work all the time, and then this one seems to work great. So probably end up using this one here, and plus it looks like it's in a lot better shape. The other difference is that this truck is tuned, unlike the other truck over there. So I'm not sure who tuned it, but I'm obviously going to be doing my own tunes, having my own tuner. I'm not going to run whatever they were running because I'm not sure who did it. And plus it's going to have to get modified for whatever we do as far as fuel and air. This truck, unlike the other truck, is in a little bit worse shape. The headliner is pretty torched. It's got some sags, and it's also got these weird hooks up there. I don't know what those were for, but they are bolted up into the ceiling of the truck, or the reinforcement, not so much the hood skin itself, or the roof skin. But the dash pad was in really bad shape. I actually started disassembling the interior of this one already. The dash pad is junk. I threw that in the bed. The wiring is a cluster. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what the ultimate goal was here, but it is a mess. So that's all gonna have to get figured out. The cool part about it, it is a full power leather heated seat truck, which is very nice, and it has the Bose system in it. The sad part is probably not going to be keeping any of that stuff, and I'll tell you why in a second. Before I forget, I paid $5,600 for this truck. Maybe a lot in some of your eyes, but up here in northern Indiana, finding an original southern rust-free truck is fairly hard, which this one, obviously being a two-wheel drive, isn't super practical up here when it snows or in any kind of weather, but I'm not really using it for the two-wheel drive. I'm using it for the body swap. So the other truck, I had the option of buying a front clip and a bed, which was going to equate to about $2,500, and if I couldn't find the exact paint code, I'd have to get it painted, which could end up being another $3,500 or so dollars. So to pretty much alleviate that, I got a truck with issues where the whole body matches, it's rust free. It's going to pretty much be a direct swap if I decide to go that route. I want it to be four-wheel drive. So that's going to eliminate the use of using this interior here, because basically what I'm going to be doing is swapping the dash out for the dash in the other truck, because the other truck has a push-button four-wheel drive system in it. Rather than ripping the harness out and trying to put it into this dash here, it's going to be much easier and much less time to just pull the entire dash out of each truck and swap it over. But this also means that I'm going to have to give up the creature comforts of this truck, which is the heated seats and the power seats as well. Now that's okay with me because I actually really like the cloth seats. They're super comfortable. So now that leads to the question of how are we going to make it four-wheel drive with the hard parts. So the wiring is pretty much done after you swap the dash in. After that, it's a couple harnesses. You plug one into the diff, you plug one into the transfer case. It all goes together. But the difference here are the frames. So I've got two options. So first option is I can body swap this truck onto the four-wheel drive frame, and all the mounts are there. So I have the front diff mounts, everything is there already. The CVs, the wheel bearings, the harnesses are already on the frame. Or I can take this truck here, the two-wheel drive truck, with the frame that it's got, put a lift under the front of the truck. The lift has two mounts for the diff integrated into it already. There is one mount that has to be added, and then you have to buy the prothane bushings or the factory bushing for the frame for the passenger side mount. These trucks don't have those rubber bushings inside the frame for that aluminum bracket, basically. So we'd have to do some modification for that. And then also add a four-wheel drive trans to it, transfer case. And then the other thing is the drive shaft on the other truck is bent. So we have to either source a drive shaft or get this two-wheel drive shaft shortened up for the four-wheel drive. There is a third option as well, and that would be a solid axle swap front end, which I am not doing. Obviously, this doesn't have to be done for your build if you're doing a budget build for your LB7. I just want a clean truck. So if you're already from the South and you have a clean truck, this isn't going to pertain to you. If you have a two-wheel drive truck and you don't want it to be four-wheel drive, this won't pertain to you. And if you're fine with having a little bit of rust on your northern truck, this won't pertain to you either. All right, so within the last 30 seconds, I came up with a different plan. So pretty much what I'm going to do is combine both of these trucks to a point where I want them, sell off the rest of the parts, and then basically add up the 2,500 plus the 5,600 and subtract what I get back in parts from the two trucks. And then that'll be the start price for the budget build, and then I'll start adding on to what gets done to the truck, whether that be the lift, injectors, turbo, CP3, transmission, all of that stuff. So that's going to conclude the intro video for this series. If you guys are interested in doing a low buck budget LB7 street truck, stay tuned. I will be pushing more videos out soon. Until then, I'll catch you guys in the next one.